Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro continues his Eurasian tour in Azerbaijan in the framework of the peace diplomacy that the Bolivarian government is developing. Heavy rains in the Caribbean sparked floods in the Dominican Republic and Haiti, leaving thousands of families displaced and more than 5,000 homes affected. Russian President Vladimir Putin predicted the end of a unipolar world at the International Economic Forum in St. Petersburg. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The Venezuelan president continues his international tour in Azerbaijan in the framework of the peace diplomacy that the Bolivarian government is developing. The presidents of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, and Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, met this Friday through video conference in the context of the working visit of the South American president to the Asian nation with the purpose of addressing the state of bilateral cooperation relations. The meeting addressed the importance of the Venezuelan president's visits to Azerbaijan as part of his regional tour, which was valued as an indicator of the high level of the political relations. During the exchange, the need to expand cooperation in economic spheres and cooperation between business circuits was pointed out. The Landless Rural Workers Movement of Brazil opened last June 11 a unit of almost on the campus store chain in Pelourinho in the state of Bahia. The Landless Movement of Brazil became the largest distributor of agrarian reforming products in the country with the opening of 39 almost on the campus store at the regional level. The opening is evidence of sales expansion from peace and family farming. From the movement, the warehouse initiative seeks to strengthen the rural-urban relationship through agroecological products and thus break with the dependence on agro-taxes implemented by the large economic chain.
This is very important what is happening all over Brazil. In all the family agriculture producers, the campers, the settlers, who are bringing healthy food to the table of the cities where it did not arrive and it is arriving now. We're also working to bring food to the rest of Latin America, Argentina, Venezuela. This is the importance of the people that unite us and the integration of Latin America.
During a campaign stop in northern Brazil, former President Lula asked for a moment of silence for Islam indigenous rights activist Bruno Pereira, an English journalist on fields whose bodies were found in the Amazon rainforest early this week. From Maceió, our correspondent Brian Armin's report.
I'm in Maceió, the capital of the northeastern state of Alagoas, where thousands of people have come out to see former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva in a pre-campaign rally for this year's presidential race, a race that he's leading by 21%, according to recent polls. Last night, in the first stop of his three-city northeastern pre-campaign tour, he asked the crowd to give a minute of silence for slain British journalist Dom Phillips and indigenous rights leader Bruno Pereira, whose bodies were found earlier this week. At the same time that far-right President Jair Bolsonaro is blaming the victims and calling for a celebratory motorcycle parade in the Amazonas state capital of Manaus, Lula is taking every chance he can get to call out the murderers who paid for the killings, who hired these gunmen to kill the journalists and the indigenous rights activists in an area where genocide is being committed against indigenous peoples by gold miners and loggers. Lula referred to the assassins as bandits connected to paramilitary militias. We know that the Bolsonaro family has deep connections to these militias. Many of militiamen worked in the cabinet of Flavio Bolsonaro's state congressional office when he was state congressman in Rio de Janeiro for 10 years. And so tonight, as thousands of people come out, we're expecting to hear more harsh words from the former president about the lack of justice for Dom Phillips and Bruno Pereira.
Bolivian Attorney General's office informed Friday that in the context of the so-called non-lethal weapons Ecuador case investigation, the public ministry issued formal changes against former ministers and officials of the de facto governments of Yanin Áñez for the crimes of illegal arms trafficking, opposition and use of non-conventional weapons during the protests against the 2019 coup.
We would like to inform that last June the 13th, the Prosecutor's Commission of the Prosecutor's Office specialized in the crimes of corruption, illicit profit laundering, and customs tax crimes has presented the normal indictment against the former Ministers of Government and Defense, Arturo Murillo and Fernando Lopez, respectively, within the case that we have called non-lethal weapons of Ecuador.
The official lists the quantities and characteristics of the weapons that entered the Andean country during this period.
The indictment describes the entry of 5,000 hand grenades, 2,389 long-range 37mm caliber bullets, 560 short-range 37mm caliber bullets, and 500 sound and flash grenades for outdoor use.
Thousands of people have been evacuated and more than 5,000 homes have been affected by the rains in the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Authorities reported that in several provinces of the Dominican Republic, more than 2,455 people were evacuated by the rains and more than 4,000 homes were affected. In Haiti, at least 600 homes were damaged and 3,000 families affected by the rains. Meteorological authorities in both countries indicate that the rains could continue for the next few hours while urging the population to refrain from crossing rivers and streams. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. In Ecuador, demonstrators against President Guillermo Lazo's economic and social policies entered its fifth day of protest. The president of the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities, Leonidas Issa, affirmed that the national strike will continue as long as the neoliberal policies of Lazo's government are not repealed. Likewise, in a message addressed to the CONAIE, other organizations in the social sector supporting the strike, is underlined that the actions will have a national scope, although they will be carried out from the indigenous communities' territories. In this sense, the leader of the Indigenous Confederation reaffirmed his call not to fall into provocations and to guarantee that each day of protest will be peaceful.
We must stop any kind of vandalism. It must be controlled in its organizational structures. We do not accept that a struggle that we have led up to this day in an absolutely transparent manner be turned into a criminal act in this country. That it is intended to be turned into an act of vandalism and violence or confrontation. Therefore, we ask our comrades that this struggle, this resistance, we carry it with dignity on our feet, but that it never be confused with acts of violence or worse, vandalism.
Now let's take a look at the strike called by the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, CONAIE, against the policies of President Guillermo Lazo's government. Multiple injuries, arbitrary detentions, and cases of police repression have been reported in the 6 provinces during the day. In Cotopaxi and Sucumbíos, at least 7 people were injured, while Santo Domingo de los Chilas, 5 injured were reported, among them a minor. At the same time, in the province of Quito and Pichincha, 13 arbitrary detentions were reported, while Cotopaxi registered 19, and Santo Domingo de los Chilas so far reported 2. Likewise, in Pichincha, Sucumbes, Cotopaxi, Asu, Santo Domingo, Tachila, and Chimborazo, multiple incidents of police repression against social protests were registered. There are still no reports of people missing during the demonstration. Russian President Vladimir Putin predicted the end of a unipolar world at the International Economic Forum at St. Petersburg. The head of state said the ruling elites of the West live in an imaginary world and refuse to recognize global changes. President Putin also added that Western countries try to reverse the course of history by reasoning in terms of last century. The president recalled that in recent decades, the new economic centers have emerged, developed their own political system and institutions in which they have implemented their own models of economic growth, and now they have the right to protect them and guarantee their sovereignty.
It's easy to know what they aimed at: to crush the Russian economy by breaking business chains, freezing assets, and withdrawing Western companies from our market. But it all failed.
The Russian president also said that the West failed in its attempt to call the ruble.
Some of the experts succumbed to the pressure and in their forecast spoke of an inevitable and sharp fall of Russia's GDP, of a critical weakening of the ruble. Reality proved them wrong.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said that problems over high commodity and fuel prices are the result of a flawed bureaucratic system in Europe and the US.
Russia has nothing to do with this. The problem with high commodities and fuel prices are the result of the systemic failures of the European and American bureaucracy. This is the root of their misguided policies. To them, our operation in the Donbass has served as a lifeline. Now they can hold us responsible for their failures. One just needs to have gone to elementary school to understand all this.
UK Home Secretary Priti Patel has signed an order to extradite WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange to the US, where he could face a sentence of up to 175 years in prison. The case passed to the Home Secretary last month after the Supreme Court ruled there were no legal questions over Assange. Assurance given by the authorities over how Assange was likely to be treated. While Patel has given the green light, WikiLeaks immediately released a statement to say it will appeal against the decision. Assange faces espionage charges in the US and is wanted for trial. In 2010, Assange published military and diplomatic files exposing Pentagon atrocities in Iraq and could face up to 175 years in jail if found guilty. And we have more news coming up after this final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Clashes between youth and police left one dead in Senegal's capital, Dakar, on Friday as officers blocked off access to home in opposition leader Ousmane Sonko. Spokesman for Sonko's party, Sonko's Lili, said three opposition figures, Thani Fall, Atem Aidara, and Mohamed Deria Fem, were also arrested. The police actions come after Sonko called for protests at the time when the country is in the grip of pre-election tensions. Citizens came out to protest against a decision to bar a list of candidates for Senegal's legislative election in July 31st. The move bans Sagusa and other opposition figures from contesting the ballot. Police fired tear gas at youth and used stone grenades to disperse them in a number of Dakar's neighborhoods.
The democracy of Senegal has been trampled on when it should not be. It is lost in advance. The confrontation is inevitable given the situation. Macky Sall will have to be accountable, and if he thinks he can do his deeds and get away with it, he's mistaken. The youth will confront him even if there will be 200 deaths.
Hundreds of protesters marched through the streets of Jerusalem on Friday to protest sexual violence and the culture of blaming women under closing for rape and sexual harassment. The rally is an annual event organizer named Slut Walks as part of an international protest movement that began in 2011. The protesters carry signs written, "When she said not, she means not," and she claimed that it's not an invitation to rape. The first such protest took place in the Canadian city of Toronto and was sparked by a police officer's remark that women could avoid being raped by not dressing like sluts. The rally soon spread around the globe as a means of demonstrating against the notion that women's appearance could explain or excuse rape and sexual harassment.
Today is against rape culture, and we're trying to achieve that there will be no more blaming the victims and no more rape and no more violence against women.
We're trying to say that it doesn't matter what we wear and who we are. Rape, it's not something that we deserve. People in the government need to protect us. They need to be with us here, and they're not here. And this is the 10th year that we're walking here in Jerusalem, which is the main city of Israel. The government sits here, and we want to say this is our place. We want to feel safe on the streets.
The Sana Center for Strategic Studies in cooperation with the Folklore Bernadotte Academy launched the Yemen International Forum 2022 in Stockholm on Friday, a platform for Yemenis to engage in in-depth conversations of the political situation, peace efforts, and the economy. With 200 participants, the forum brought together members of government, senior leaders from various Yemeni parties, politicians, activists, researchers, civil societies, leaders, diplomats, and international mediators. Sweden's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Anna Lindh, and the United Nations Special Envoy for Yemen, Hans Grönberg, addressed the opening session. The Yemen International Forum came during the third month of the UN-sponsored nationwide truce. The organization paved the way to expand discussions on challenges as well as the opportunities for a political settlement, economic priorities, security sector reform, governance, and the meaningful inclusion of women in peacemaking.
The support of the international community. This is necessary, but it's not sufficient. Yemenis and Yemeni leaders from across the country need to decide to give peace a serious chance. They need to envisage what peace will look like and the steps, but also more importantly, the compromises that need to be taken to get there. And I have to say that I'm also surprised by the commitment that the parties have shown, despite all the challenges, to see the truce holding so far. We know that it is fragile. Yes, it's far from perfect, but it is holding.
Two militants accused of kidnapping and killing 4 foreigners in the restricted southern Philippines were detained on Friday after surrendering to the military. The fugitives were members of the Fair Kidnap for Random Group Abu Sayyaf and have been handed over to police on Jolo Island and Sulu Province. Abu Sayyaf is a group of Islamist rebels, some of them allied to Islamic State group, which has carried out bombing and ransom kidnappings in the past 3 decades. The 2 suspects have been accused of the November 2016 kidnapping and subsequent murder of German sailor Jürgen Kanter and his female partner. The body of the woman was found with a gunshot wound aboard a yacht that went adrift in the Sulu Sea after kidnap boarding. teleSUR expanding signal with new satellite parameters, and since more than ever the world connects to us and our stories are being heard all over the world. These parameters are in place since June the 1st in Latin America and the Caribbean, both in English and in Spanish. And quite soon, further changes will be implemented for the signal in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. This new multi-platform will continue providing trustful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative or faithfulness to our audience. And with that story, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For TeleSUR English, and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.